we finished describing different kinds of objects of meditation that you could use in the context of tying your mind to the object, chaining your mind to the object, right? And that's how we got onto the object of meditation. But it was in the context of the second typical problem of meditation, which was the elephant getting away. Okay? The object is, I guess the pole gets away. But anyway, yeah, the pole gets away, right? The mind is the wild horse. The pole is the object, right? And the pole gets away somehow. Alright? So he was giving you different poles you could tie your mind to. Right? Is the air conditioning as cool as it can be? Make sure, because maybe it's sleepy. Alright. Having done that, he goes on to discuss which one's right for you. Here we go. I think we're at Mach 9, right? No? Okay? Yeah, we're at Mach 9. Okay, we're at the second turn. Okay, here we go. Mach 9 in actual practice, he says, Mach 9. You should pick the meditation object which comes to you easily. Which, when you try to focus on it, it comes up in your mind easily. Say, Madru Pardu, here's the important part. And until such time as that object, until such time as you have great meditation on that object, Nikpa Karma Göpa, don't move to another object. Until such time, pick an object which fits you. And it might be Mahamudra, it might be watching your own mind, it might be an emptiness meditation, it might be thinking about your new Dharma. I like doing Thanksgiving meditations, just thinking about all the people I have to thank. Choose one that suits you. But Madhu Party, until you get good at it, Nikpa Karma Göpa. Don't switch to another object. Gom Göpa le, Dole Sumbe Nikpa Shibo, Sama Gom Göpa Minpe. Don't think you have to cover all the 4 meditation objects that we talked about last. That were described by Lord Buddha in the Sutras. Don't think, oh, I didn't cover all of them. Pick the one which suits you and stick with it. Vanki Semla Kantrapa Chitla Sem Chakra. Put your mind on one which fits your heart. It's your own personality. They on Golden Power. There was this is a scholar from ancient India, Golden Power. Sura. Nikpa Chigla, Pema Sunku, Yeki Saba, Pema Cha. Pick a single meditation object and make it firm in your mind. Nikpa Mambo Göpa Yini Yomo Chupa. If you keep switching from one meditation object to another, your mind will be disturbed by negative thoughts. Okay? Your mind will get disturbed. Stick to one object. Pick it carefully, and then stick to it until you get good at it. Whether it's your Lama, or it's emptiness, or whatever you choose. Sheshin, when you are practicing meditation, pick a single object. If you keep switching the object, you won't get shamatha. You won't be able to develop deep focus. And Mercedes had this in a sutra last week. Do you know the name? If you were ever a Boy Scout in Arizona in we had fire making contest, and you had to get a stick and a string and another stick, and you have to spin the stick until it smolders, and then from then on it's hopeless. So then Tsukshin Sutta they say when you're making a fire by rubbing the stick against the other stick, right? If you keep switching sticks, you won't be able to get a fire. Thereby said, not only that, Shine Gopana, Nidang Sedang Shangchi Doka Tsalmato, Chen Tsushin Parma Chepan, Supatar, Parma Chebu, Loam Dawa Tuk So, GSAL Göpa Chepa. Not only that, but when you are trying to develop shamatha or high meditation, except for periods, this is especially those of you who are going into 3-year retreat, okay? Except for periods when you sleep, or periods when you're eating, or Shangchi Dorwa means when you are going number 1 and number 2. Except for those periods, keep the fire stick to the fire stick. He says keep the fire stick to the fire stick. Don't quit. Keep going. Okay? Except for the times when you have to take a break, keep pushing. Okay? Because if you switching sticks is one problem. Going for 5 minutes on one stick and then stopping and then going for 5 minutes, 2 hours later, it's not going to work. Okay? You may take you a year, it may take you 6 months, but don't put large gaps in your practice. Keep the practice up daily, and don't. If you're not in 3-year retreat, keep it up daily. If you're in 3-year retreat, it's going to be more. Chiklas sune, chikshila Pabu. Don't be like a person who gets tired of one thing and then moves on to another thing. Shakre ni nelson so chena minjumo. And don't, it's the same with your yoga practice. Don't practice hard for 2 days and then skip 2 days. Okay. Do a little bit every day. Rather than heroic efforts on 2 days and then nothing for 2 days. Okay? Dena, banga te, nikten jawe chimur, kikutabe, deksema nila sune, yi yudu chadela, kongsu shupan, Lamen Watchfullness, Nikten Lama, Jingwa Cha Chute, Sharp, Dhamma. Why when they talk about this, what do they call problem number 2? It's not called losing the object. It's called forgetting the instructions, and it doesn't mean that. It means losing the object, right? And he says, instruction does come in here. Because if you're taking, for example, if you're going to meditate on a Buddha image, right, an enlightened being, then you can go look at the statue for a while, and then you go sit down on your seat and you close your eyes and you try to think about it and bring it to mind, right? In time, you will calm. Say calm. Listen to this. Okay, ready? Calm. Okay? Calm means to get used to something, to become accustomed to something through constantly being around it. Calm means to meditate, and one is the root for the other. You see, meditation, the word for meditation in Tibet means you are around the object of your meditation so often that you get accustomed to it. And then it starts coming to mind all the time, automatically, like the image of your heart lama. It just starts to come. You're sitting there having a, root beer, and this lama pops up in your mind. And that's Go. And that's a result of Go. Okay? Getting accustomed to your lama popping up in your mind is what meditation is. And it's the result of meditation. Calm. In the end, he says, in selecting the object of your meditation, depend on your lama's advice. You have to have a heart lama. You have to have someone close to you, someone that you live near, and you can go to them and say, what object do you think I should be meditating on? We'll get to the subject later. But once you find your heart lama, you should stay near them. And then you should be asking, they should be around, and you should be able to ask them their advice. And that's the whole point. So you should be able to say what object you think I should be using. Okay? In the end, you should make a decision that way. Ngar Cha Let's say Nikka Drenchi Raka Cha Che Sam Cha Tupa Chuna Nikka Nekayin. You will know that you got your meditation object in your mind when you have a rough outline of it in your mind. Right? That's enough. For example, if you're trying to visualize the Lama, their physical appearance, if you could just get their silhouette down nicely, you would have already found the object in there. See, you're already tied to the object. You don't have clarity, you don't have intensity, you don't have other qualities that we'll talk about, but in the beginning, you have reached the object. If you just get a silhouette that you can hang on to, that's enough. And that's a good way to start with a Lama. Just as if they're sitting behind a sheet with a light behind them and you see their outline. That's how you start. If you can hold that outline, you haven't lost the object. You're okay. Chartupa Chuna Meka Nyepayin. Take Janune Shawa Dela Nyepa Nipa Dala Deva Se. But if you lose the silhouette and you start thinking about lunch, that's problem number 2, which is called forgetting the instructions, but which means losing the object, even a very rudimentary object, losing it. Okay. The antidote for problem number 2 is the antidote for problem number 2 is antidote number, because we used up the first 4 already. Right? I saw her, I was thinking about how cool she is. Then I want her. Then I work to get her. And then I enjoy being with her and I get good at it. Right? That was all number 1. That was also problem number 1, which was not feeling right doing the Now we're up to problem 2, which is you lose even the rough outline. The antidote for that is antidote number 5. What is antidote number 5? Drenpa. Drenpa means keeping the object in mind. Okay? You can say, the Tibetan word means remembering or recollection. But here it means like some kind of awareness. You're keeping awareness of the object. The object is still aware of the object. Then he gives an example. Lakde Tawa Soma Par, Tamba Shuk Chandu, Mikten Ture Soma Ver. In Tibet, everybody had a rosary around their wrist. And, he's talking about how you would hold a rosary. You can hold it loosely, or you can hold it firmly. Right? If you can apply the 5th antidote, when you have the second problem, it is similar to a firm grasp on a rosary or a cup, right? Like the McDonald's, what they say? This is going to burn your hand off if you spill it on yourself. Like, it's so weird they have to tell people that, right? So it means hold the cup a little bit with awareness. So don't be sloppy. Don't slop it on your wrist and keep some part of your mind on holding it firmly. Don't let it fall out of your hand onto your lap. And then you'll be able to sustain the grasp of the object. You'll be able to hold on to it for a period. In the Yoga Sutra, that's the difference between dharana and jnana. Okay? Of the Ashtanga, limb number 6, which is just to focus on the object, and then limb number 7, which is the sustained focus on the object. Right? The word jnana was originally pronounced in India Chan. And when it got to China, they called it Chan. And when the Japanese heard it, they heard Zen. Zen comes from jnana. Okay? Alright. Sat Sosa Drenpa Family Fan Ki Yang Shine Recollection. Different people have different abilities to sustain an awareness of the object, right? You know people who are spilling things all the time. You do. Who knock over cups all the time like that. And then you know people who just never drop anything. And that's a capacity of awareness. Whether you have a good capacity for maintaining awareness of even a cup of coffee in your hand, or whether you have a poor capacity for that, will ultimately reflect in your capacity to develop shamatha easily or not. If you have a good minute by minute capacity to stay aware of what's going on around you, like even in traffic, for example, then you will find it easier to develop shamatha. What exactly is that awareness? He's going to give you a more detailed description of it from a book called The Compendium. There's two compendiums, I don't know which one it is. I believe it's probably the Abhidharmasamuccaya, Compendium of Abhidharma, but it could be a different one. Samuccaya. I'll check. Drenpa, what is it to have awareness towards your meditation object? It is a mental quality which performs the function of enabling you not to lose or forget an object which you are growing in familiarity with. Got it? Awareness of coffee. For example, the first time you had to hold a cup of coffee in your life, you were a child, somebody gave you a hot cup of something, and they said, okay, dear, hold it a little tighter at the top, and don't let it spill on you. And then you weren't so good at it. You weren't accustomed to it. Later, the awareness increased because you became more used to having hot things in your head. And meditation is the same. And so the awareness, the capacity to hold the cup firmly will increase as you get more used to holding cups of hot things, like a child. Sheshin So the idea of getting good at maintaining a meditation object is defined as the familiarity you build up with that object. So let's say you're practicing your lama, your root heart lama is your meditation object, right? The first day that you try to visualize them, it's going to be a little crude, and it won't come easily. Okay? After a year, I mean, you can spend a month on their eyes. You can spend just a month on the shape of your lama's eyes, and then you can, because you're getting used to the eyes, then the object of meditation becomes brighter and stronger. So meditation can be defined as an increasing familiarity with an object because you're meditating every day on it, and it becomes more and more familiar. I had a really intense experience. I was staying in Dharamsala in the 70s, and I lived next door to Jija Rinpoche, who wrote down this book, My Lama's Heart Lama. And everybody said, come on, Mike, let's go see Jija Rinpoche. He was like 75 at the time. I said, who am I to bother such a high Lama? Who am I? People were like banging on his door all the time. And I said, leave the guy alone. He's old, he's a high Lama. People are always bothering him. Just, I never went over there. And then I told my Lama that later, and he yelled at me. He said, you're a fool. You were a fool. I never met him. He passed away. I never got to meet him. I lived next door for months. And I made a mistake. I made a big mistake. Anyway, somebody I know went over there with a piece of blank paper. And they said, Rinpoche, could you draw a Buddha, for us? And he went like this. And it was perfect. Because he was drawing it from his meditation album. I had the drawing. I don't know what it is. But it's beautiful. And he just drew it freehand on the spot and he handed it to the guy. Because he was meditating all day on Buddha. So it was really beautiful. Okay. Jingwa Göpa maintain in number Pure Char Vate. Jingwa Göpa maintain in number Pure Char Vate. Then, so as you get more familiar with the object, it will arise in your mind spontaneously. And he gives the example of dinner when you're hungry. Okay? So it's not like you have to struggle to bring up a vision of your favorite dinner when you're hungry. You get hungry and that triggers the vision, right? Got it? Your meditation should become like that. With the ease that you remember your favorite food when you're hungry, you should remember your heart mama when you feel like meditating, like that. Like that. The minute you sit down, it comes. Panya means what do you call it? Unbidden. Not trying to do it. Just like spontaneously. It just pops up. The function of awareness is to prevent your mind from wandering off to another object. So your awareness should have these qualities. Therefore, we can say that holding an object before your mind's eye is what we mean by focusing. Holding the object before your mind's eye is what we mean by meditative focus. You must learn to tie your mind to that object in such a way that the mind doesn't wander off. You have to try to struggle to eliminate other objects around the object, and there's a thing in Buddhism about the perception of a person, right? The perception of Teddy is to eliminate everything else in the room. I arrive at Teddy by eliminating every other object in the room. You see? So in a way, when you're meditating, you are bringing up the object by eliminating all other objects. There's nothing else in the world. Just think this. In the middle of a meditation thing, there's nothing else in the world but this object. Not even me. It's not even me. It's just this object. And that'll make it easier. Moshe said, oh, this is very interesting. What's the third problem? The garbage cans. Huh? Yeah, all of them. Either you get dull, either you get sleepy, or you start wandering. Okay, it's the same as listening to my talk. Okay, now your mind has to thread between the two lines of garbage cans, right? Either you'll get sleepy and just kind of space, or you'll start thinking about, or your mind will leave the room. If your mind stays in the room, you might get sleepy, or your mind might leave the room. Okay? Why has that occurred? Why do you have dullness, and why, I'll give you a clue, okay? Why do you have dullness on the object, or wandering from the object? Because you were on the object. Okay? So Pabongka Rinpoche makes an interesting note here. You get to the next problem because you fixed the last thing. Got it? You get to the next problem because you fixed the last thing. You can't get dull on the object if you don't reach the object. Okay? Like, if you never get to your lama's form, you can't get sleepy about it. Or if you never get to your lama's form in your mind, you'll never think of lunch and leave the form. Got it? What it means is, the moment you've overcome your first big obstacle, and you're able to hold the object, immediately you're going to have two other problems. You'll start spacing, or you'll start thinking of something else. You'll either get dull, the mind will get dark, dull, or the mind will go somewhere else. Why? Because you succeeded. You got the object now. Now you can have problems with the object. Got it? Okay. There are different forms of dullness and agitation. There are different forms. I'm going to call them dullness and restlessness. You can call them dullness and agitation. You can call them a lot of things in English, okay? There are also a lot of ancient Sanskrit words and Tibetan words to describe these problems. He says, if you cannot distinguish between dullness, darkness, and restlessness, then there's a problem that you will never identify. There's a big deal in scripture about identifying your enemy. Okay? Like you're in a battle in Tibet, people didn't have red uniforms and blue uniforms. You know, it was just a bunch of people milling around on a big piece of land killing each other. And you didn't know who was on what side, right? So, I mean, you walk up to some guy and you don't know if he's on your side or not. Because there were no uniforms, right? So then there's a chance that you might not recognize the real foe. Dark shadow means the real foe. If you can't distinguish between dullness, darkness, restlessness, and another one called wandering, okay? You have to know the difference. You have to know the different ways in which your mind will leave the object, okay? There are like 4 or 5 different ways in which you will screw up once you get the object. And you must be able to distinguish between them. Why? Each one takes a different antidote. Okay? You gotta be able to say, oh, I'm dull right now. I gotta use antidote number 6. Or whatever. You know, I'm distracted. I have to apply antidote, this other antidote. Okay? So, if you cannot identify the different problems your mind is going to have with the object, you're not going to know which tool to pull out and fix it with. Right? So you have to be able to identify the different ways in which your mind will sneak away from the object. Right? Here we go. Dela mupani nusemchi yoyo wa nudu doa toma tabo shefa dip. So first he describes a Tibetan word called Mupa. Mupa means darkness, but it's describing a state of mind. Okay, it's darkness. It's the third word up there, Rmugs. Okay, Mupa means darkness. Here's what it means: your body and your mind feel heavy. You feel like you're about to fall asleep. That's darkness. Okay? That's a really extreme form of dullness. Right? Like, it's so bad you're going to fall asleep. I was in a very deep meditation 36 years ago. I remember. I was having a really deep meditation. And suddenly it started to fall apart, you know? And I was like, what's going on, you know? What's happening? And I examined my whole mind. I went from corner to corner, place to place. Where's the problem? What's the problem? Why am I losing the object? And then I said, oh, I'm sleepy. I didn't get enough sleep last night, you know? So I just stopped and I took a nap. Okay? Like, sometimes you're just sleepy. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do. You know, if you didn't have enough sleep the night before, even yoga is hard for me when I don't sleep enough. Asanas are hard for me when I don't sleep enough. The problem with your meditation may be simple as getting another hour of sleep. Right? And I asked Ken Rinpoche when I first got to Howell in 1904. And I said, Rinpoche, teach me how not to sleep. You know, teach me how not to need to sleep. And he said, forget it. So you sleep as much as you need to. If it's 7 hours, okay. If it's 8 hours, okay. If it's 9 hours, okay. You won't be able to meditate well if you don't sleep as much as you personally need to. Okay? Some people need 6, some people need 9. Don't like judge yourself about it. You know? That's who you are. You don't have to be Lama Zopa Rinpoche and you never sleep. You know? That's what good for him. But you sleep as much as you need, because if you don't, you won't be able to meditate. Right? Mukpa is overwhelming sense of heaviness, bodily and mental, and you feel like you're about to fall asleep. Right? It's extreme dullness. Okay? He says, karmically speaking, mukpa can be karmically neutral, or it can be karmically non-virtuous. Okay? Like in traffic, okay? Someone has to get in your lane, and you back off, and you wave to them, and you let them go ahead of you. That's a virtue. Right? All actions that you do are one of three kinds. Virtue is to let them come in front of you, and you slow down and you wave them over. Non-virtue is you speed up and you try to make it so they can't get into the lane. Okay? But what's between there? You kind of just let things happen the way they're going to happen. You don't slow down, you don't speed up. That's called lumaten. Lumaten means karmically neutral. You're not going to get a bad karma from that, and you're not going to get a good karma from that. It's just like, you're just driving. Okay? Darkness, mukpa, darkness in the mind, the feeling that you're about to fall asleep. At best, it's karmically neutral. At worst, it's a bad deed. Bila gewa making, however, it will always lead to some trouble. Okay? It may not itself be karmically bad. It may be to be sleepy in a meditation is not a bad deed, but it will make you do a bad deed. Okay, got it? It will trigger some kind of problem. Many of human beings' problems with each other are simply a lack of enough sleep. You know? And you know that. You know, the times when you start to get anxiety about your life, or it doesn't seem like things are, you know, everything's dark. It's no more, what do you call it? Mysterious than you just didn't get enough sleep. And take a nap and everything will be suddenly okay. And it's not that things changed. You just got enough sleep. Jingwa cha. Now we get to maybe the most important part of the meditation scripture. Okay? This is the most important part. Alright? Dullness, mental dullness in meditation, can be divided into two different kinds. One is called obvious dullness, which is called gross dullness, and one is called subtle dullness. Right? One is a very obvious kind of dull state of mind when you're trying to meditate. And one is more sneaky. And the sneaky one is the one we've got to study, because you can mistake it for good meditation. Here we go. There are two forms of dullness, obvious dullness and then subtle dullness. Nikyan chelde simbala, necha yukyang selcha meni vakta. In the obvious form of dullness, you have not lost the object. Okay, you're still on the object, right? We're on to problem number 3. Number 2 is where you were losing the object. And number 3, you're on the object. You are picturing your Lama, or you are thinking about emptiness or whatever. Okay? You're on the object you were supposed to be on. And you have necha. Necha, say necha. Necha. Selcha. Selcha. Necha. Necha. Selcha. Selcha. I'm going to just branch off here and give you those. Okay? Necha means fixation on the object. Fixation on the object. Necha. It means the part of thing. Necha. Fixation on the object. As opposed to selcha. Selcha means brightness. Selcha means brightness. I want to call it freshness. The word means clarity, and that word in English is dangerous. Why? If I say you have good fixation of the object, but you don't have clarity, what comes to mind? You think the object is clear. You think, oh, the Lama has 2 eyes and not 1. Or, like that. And that's not what clarity means in this case. Clarity means how fresh is your mind. How fresh is your state of mind. It does not refer to the object. It's not like, is the object blue or red or bright or dark, or it doesn't. Clarity in the study of meditation means, is your mind bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? Okay? Does your mind feel fresh, refreshed, and excited and engaged? Okay? Clarity doesn't mean what? The object's not fuzzy. It doesn't mean that. It means how sharp is the mind, and not how sharp is the object. Got it? So in the case of obvious dullness, which one do you have and which one do you not have? Fixation and clarity. Which one do you have? You're fixed. You have fixation on the object, but you don't have clarity because your mind's not fresh. You don't feel fresh and bright and engaged. Okay? It doesn't mean the object's fuzzy, right? Got that? Okay. Remember that, because a lot of people have misunderstood that. So gross dullness is where you do have fixation, but no clarity, meaning the mind is not fresh. The mind is tired and down, right? Not bright. And later he's going to say, look, this stuff you have to experience. I can talk to you about freshness, but until you meditate for a few weeks or months, you won't know what I'm talking about really. You'll get there, you'll be in a meditation one day and you'll say, oh my God, I'm fresh. I got freshness. Or you'll be saying, I ain't got freshness right now. Alright. Nite zintan mashwar war necha da salcha yatan zintan vishut hane salcha narne dechivatama. So what do you guys guess subtle dullness would be? In rough dullness, you have fixation, but you don't have clarity. Yeah, in subtle dullness, you do have fixation, and you do have clarity. Your mind is fairly engaged. Okay? But he says, your mind is, what do you call it? Loose. You have fixation, and you have clarity, but there's no, they call it, say Ngar. You are going to have to spend a few months trying to figure out what Ngar means. Okay? You have to experience it. Okay? Ngar means an intensity to the freshness. An intensity of the freshness. You can have some degree of freshness is not enough. You have got to have intense freshness. Okay? It's the difference between a good movie and an okay movie. Sorry, a great movie and an okay movie. How are you into it? How deep are you into it? It's the difference between your favorite song and your second favorite song. Okay? They play your favorite song. I'm going to play it tomorrow. Can you see if we got the sound system at that place tomorrow? I want to play a CD. I'll bring my computer. So I have a piece of classical music that's just off. It sends me. And I want to do yoga to that with you tomorrow, rather than telling you what the hell you're doing in the yoga. But the intensity of your involvement in a piece of music that you intensely love, that's Ngar. Okay? Subtle dullness means you do have a freshness of mind, somewhat, and you do have fixation, but there's no intensity. It's not an intense clarity of mind. It's not an intense brightness of the mind. It's just an okay brightness of the mind, kind of a loose brightness of the mind. Right? If you want to know the greatest obstacle of all to meditation, this is it. Subtle dullness. Say, Jingwa, trouble. Jingwa, trouble. I think I could describe it as the marijuana state of mind. Okay? It's like, when you smoke marijuana, you feel happy, right? And you do feel as though you're having some sort of special engagement with objects. Like, objects are more colorful or more intense, right? but it's really sort of a dull state of mind. It's not like when you just did a good yoga and you ate a good salad, and you're like, wow, and you're like healthfully intense. It's different than if you're like, wow, it's a bright intensity. Okay, it's a bright intensity. Your big challenge in meditating, and in January we'll be doing it for real. Okay? We're just discussing the manual for flying the F-14. We are not flying the F-14. Okay? In January we fly and we stop talking. Okay? But when we get there, your big job is going to be, can I catch myself in subtle dullness? Because everybody else in the world is mistaking that for good meditation. And it doesn't help you. It doesn't do anything. You can't see emptiness with subtle dullness. It feels great. You can sit there for 3 hours and hold the object. And you have some brightness of mind, but there's no intensity. Alright? So that becomes our big enemy. Slightly defective great meditation is the worst enemy of all. Alright? Slightly defective great meditation is worse than bad meditation. Because bad meditation, you know you have to do something about it. But slightly defective great meditation, you might spend years there and think you're doing good. Alright. Rmugs Pa nature Göpa sempre Shigewa Sola Ser. What we mean when we say no intensity is where you do have fixation, but you have sort of lost the mind is sort of sloppy or loose. Okay? There's no intensity. There's just sort of a looseness. Jingwa cha. This is interesting. And you've got to think about it. I'll say it and then let's all think about it for a minute. Okay? He says, if your fixation gets too good, you'll flop into subtle dullness. If you overdo the fixation, it will send you into subtle dullness. I gotta think about that. If you overdo the holding to the object, and it's like holding a football too tightly, and then it spurts out of your hand, you see? Or holding a cup too tightly, and then it just pushes out, see? Overdoing the fixation will flop you into subtle dullness. Okay? You have to think about that. Probably you have to check it. Well, that'll be on our list, okay, for January. Let's try to see what it's like to lose the intensity because we were holding too hard. We were trying to hold on too hard. Think about it. Okay? That's what I'm doing here. GSAL CHA Ngar when we say that you have intensity to the freshness of your mind, what it means is you have a pleasant, degree of concentration. A pleasant degree of concentrating on the object. That's intensity of your freshness. Is a refreshing quality of concentration. What's a better word for concentration? What do you say when somebody's driving and they say, wait, you should be... I think concentrate. Maybe just stay with concentration. Concentrate on your driving. Someone's like, and you say, Rinpoche Jim means pay attention. Pay attention is good. Pay attention. Concentrate. Rinpoche Jim means concentrate. Okay? So, intensity of the freshness is a kind of pleasant concentration. Right? The intensity of the freshness is a refreshing concentration. I want to tell you, he says, I want to give you an example of having freshness and having fixation, but not having intensity of the freshness. Alright? I want to give you an example for that. Lakme Chamo Porpa Zimba. Suppose you are holding your rosary, or monks have a porpa. You know porpa? Porpa is a little wooden bowl that you go to the morning prayer with. Why? They will serve hot tea if you show up. Otherwise you don't get hot tea. That's why everyone comes to meditate. Alright. Lakme Chama Porpa Zimbana. When you are holding your monk's bowl or your rosary, you can be holding it firmly, the cup, right? Or you can be holding it loosely, in which case you might spill the tea, alright? So, the difference between intensity with your freshness, or lack of intensity with your freshness, is similar to holding a bowl in your hand, a bowl of hot tea, and holding it in a responsibly semi-firm way, or holding it in a careless way in which it might spill and hurt you. Alright? That's the difference between intensity and no intensity. It's a quality of the degree of steadiness in the holding. Alright? It's hard, right? It's hard to describe the mental things in words. Shinam. I like his next example very, very much. Okay? I really like his next example. And this is the beauty of this book, okay? The difference between this book and Tsongkhapa's book from the 15th century is that he's got this warmth, or he's got this gentleness, or he's got this, I don't know, it's just friendly somehow. It feels warm. But he says, think about your lama, think about your heart lama, okay? In general, you have faith in them, right? You do have faith in your heart lama. But most of the day it's not like overwhelming. Like you start to cry or something like that. Like you have faith in your lama and you think about them in a devoted way. But Namshi kap kap sidele pape kefa nam shoot drop say nam shoot drop again. But every once in a while you're thinking about your heart lama and you suddenly break into tears. It's like too much. It just overwhelms you. You're just like, oh my God, I have this person in my life, and then you just break down. Okay? That's intensity of devotion, as opposed to devotion. So freshness with intensity is similar. The freshness shoots up to a new level. Bok Jimba. Bok Jimba means it shoots up to a new level. Just intense engagement of the mind. Like in your favorite piece of music, or in your favorite movie, or the best page of your favorite book. And, your mom's calling you and you don't hear it. Right? Or your favorite TV show. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. They're about to kill the giant squid, you're like. And then your mom is calling you for spaghetti dinner, and you don't even hear her. You see? That's intensity. Alright. There's a word for that in Tibetan. Say, Nang Mangepa. Nangla Mangepa. Someday we'll study it. There's a word for that. Anyway. Jindang Namale. Shoot drop of Lona. Jindang Namale. Jindang Sama. So you can say that the intensity with which you are embracing your heart lama in those special moments when you break out crying is different from the intensity otherwise, right? That's a difference of how do you say it? I don't know how to say it. Holding the object. Okay? There must be a word in English. It means to be holding on to the object firmly. It's not almost like glue. What do you call it? Glue? Fixed, I guess. You're adhering in a strong way. Super glue. As opposed to Elmer glue. Really, it's a difference of the tightness of the bonding. Somebody said bonding. It's a difference in the tightness of the bonding. Right? Maybe that's a good way to say it. So these are good examples to describe what we call intensity. Dini Nyongwe Matagna Hajang Selshik Siki Chekap Nesons. My Lama said, who's saying that? My Lama said, this is Chida Rinpoche. My Lama said, these are things which you can only really know through personal practice. He says, Siki Chekap Ne. These are not things you can describe perfectly in words. Right? I can talk to you about intensity and freshness all day, but go home and mention it to somebody. What did they say at the lecture tonight? They're talking about intensity and freshness. You're like, what are you talking about? And then you're like, I'm not quite sure. And it's something you have to learn in January, or hopefully before that. We will explore these things. Let's go looking for Subtle Dullness in January. In Prescott. He's probably there somewhere, behind a tree. And we have to go look for him. Like that. Selcha dan Jancha ni Yula ni Chepa. When we say clarity or clearness, Yula mi Chepa, we are not referring to the object. This is what I said already, right? Now he's going to say it because he's really smart. Yul Chen Shepa la Selcha Dangcha Dang. Understand that when we speak of clarity, we are not speaking about how clear the object looks. We are speaking about the freshness of the mind, the brightness of the mind, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailedness of the mind. When you don't have freshness of the mind, it almost feels as like a shadow passing over your mind. It feels like, like if a big truck drives by you and the shadow engulfs you for a moment, and then leaves. He says that's how losing your mental freshness feels like. It feels like a shadow has passed through your mind. Now he gets to a very crucial point. Right? In subtle dullness, do you have fixation? Do you have clarity? So there's a very great danger that you will mistake that for good meditation. See? He's saying that. And frankly, you meet people in some traditions or even in this tradition who are just spacey all the time. Because they meditate in subtle dullness a lot. They are holding the object well. They are not moving, they are not blowing their nose, they are not doing texts, and they are not grabbing cups of tea. They are sitting in cross-legged position with a straight back, and they haven't moved in half an hour or 45 minutes. But the mind is stuck in subtle dullness. They are spacing out, they are just zoning out. Okay? They are not in a zone, they are zoning out. Alright? And it's a very hard distinction, right? It's a very subtle distinction. And your life depends on making that distinction, right? Whether or not you will see the high objects that will save your life and save the lives of those you love depends on, can you make this distinction? Can you divide these two things? By the way, a person who doesn't meditate regularly doesn't have this problem. Alright? They'll never have fixation anyway. And they certainly don't have clarity. They're just thinking about lunch. Alright? Okay. To distinguish these two things is difficult. You can sit in subtle dullness in meditation. You can even get to a point where your breath stops, alright? Generally speaking, when you reach the spontaneous retention of the breath, which is in yoga it's called what? Kevala kumbhaka. When you reach the spontaneous suspension of your breath, it's an excellent sign. It's a really, really good sign. It means you are close to seeing emptiness. If you suddenly become aware that you haven't breathed for 5 minutes, you are close to seeing emptiness. So generally speaking, it's a good thing. But it can also happen with subtle dullness, okay? Right? So it's dangerous. And you can sit there for a whole day and not move, and be in subtle dullness. So it's dangerous. It's a dangerous thing. If you don't learn anything else about meditation in these 10 days, learn that. Spacing out is not meditation. It's dangerous. So some meditation masters in the days of yore in Tibet, okay? Lurab la gomra. Say lurab la gomra. They had a saying. It was lurab la gomra. It means I gotta get it straight. It's poetic. Great meditation is great release. That's not so good. Great meditation is great surrender, or something like that. They had a saying like that, and they said, just release your hold on the object. They interpreted the famous saying, great meditation is great release, to mean just zone out. Don't think about anything. In America they say, don't think about anything. Whatever thought comes in the mind, simply let it go to the mind. Watch it go, watch it come. Don't hold on to it. Don't connect to it. Don't make it, what do you call that? Don't identify with it. Just let it go. You know, this is Nura Brahma. This is a misinterpretation of the expression, great meditation is great letting go. How's that? Great meditation is great letting go. There was such a saying by the Buddha. Great meditation is great letting go. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean to just sit there and not try to think about anything. But try to think about nothing, right? Which the better you get at, the more you are thinking about something. Right? It's a contradiction. It's fluid. Alright, here we go. Jingwa Now, very interesting and very important point. What will happen to you if you fail to identify subtle dullness in yourself? What will happen if you keep that up year after year? What do you think? It's the pot thing. To me, it's the pot thing. You know, you just go ahead, man. You know, okay, he doesn't say pot thing because he didn't have pot. He says, Devo Susu Neki Gritsam Jingwa Ningro. There are certain deep kinds of meditation which are so deep that if you practice them your whole life and you die in that state or under the influence of those states, you will go to other realms. And they are very cool realms. You know, you spend many thousands of years in some kind of spaced out. Okay? In our tradition, it's considered undesirable because it's temporary, and you fall. After that, you fall out of it. But it's like you can reach a place if you meditate wrong for your whole life. If you do fairly good meditation your whole life and you die suddenly, your mind doesn't come back to a place like this. Your mind goes to some higher, temporary, pleasant realm. Right? But he says you can't even get to that with subtle dullness. Subtle dullness will even screw you up from doing that, which is a non-goal. Okay? You can't even get a non-goal if you have subtle dullness. Okay? So that's what he's saying. Say Diryang Jingwa, if you keep up this subtle dullness thing, you will become some kind of space cadet. Right? Space cadet is Jingwa Cha. Okay? J is space. No. Jingwa Cha means, in my, when I was young, they called it the absent-minded professor syndrome. You know, you just go around and you're like, oh, where did I put my iPhone, you know? And, oh, well, I have my key here somewhere, you know? And you know, what do you call it? They're always thinking about mathematics or something, and they're always reading stuff somewhere, dropping stuff like that. That's called Jingwa Cha. Absent-minded professor. If you want to be an absent-minded professor, do Subtle Dullness meditation frequently. Okay. Shira misel to go. This is something more serious. You will lose your capacity for intellectual thinking. You will be unable to have a serious discussion with anybody about anything, politics or science or morality or philosophical questions. You will lose the sharpness of mind required you will lose intellectual rigor. You just become you can't grasp fine points anymore. Because you're just spaced out hour after hour. These are the karmic results of spacing out frequently. Then he says something funny. He says, Dundo Dutak. Dundo Dutak. What's a Dutak? Tap is method. What's Duk? What's the Sanskrit for Dukha? Sadhana. Just cheating. Okay? What's a sadhana? Sadhana is what you're going to do for 3 years all day. At least you got to know what about me. What is a sadhana? Yeah, the word sadhana means to reach someone. Who? Yeah, you know that. Dukha means a ritual that you engage in maybe 6 times a day or 4 times a day in order to reach a divine being. Dukha means a way of reaching. And as Anatole noted, it can mean 2 different kinds of reaching. What are they? One is to meet them. Okay? I mean, you get to meet an angel. They come to your cabin, even though the doors aren't completely finished yet. They still come. Because they're like Santa Claus, they can come to the room. And you make contact. That's one meaning of sadhana. What's the other one? You become them. You turn into them. And then you hang out with them. He says, subtle dullness is a dukkha. What's that mean? Subtle dullness is a sadhana. For dundo. What's a dundo? Dundo is an animal. Animal rebirth. An animal. You want to be reborn as a turtle or something? And this is not talking about dolphins who save humans and stuff like that. This is talking about like really slow turtles. Or something like that. Like their mind state is dull. And Americans don't like to hear that. They like to think the animals are having a good time, even though they're killing each other mercilessly all day. But they are dull. You can't sit and talk to a turtle and explain to them the difference between subtle dullness and, if you want to take a rebirth as a creature whose mind is extraordinarily dull, which is the standard explanation of an animal. It's not always the case, okay? There can be animals who are divine beings who are showing themselves as an animal to teach you something. But there are also animals who are just dull. And they die because they're dull. Cows get slaughtered because they're dull. And they sit there and eat the grass and they never figure out that they're going to get killed. They can't talk to each other and warn each other. It's just the nature of their mind. So if you want to be like that, then keep up the subtle dullness meditation. Okay. It becomes a sadhana for that. Alright? Got it? Cute. Not cute. Okay. Lift up to the global sadhana. It's almost as if you were purposely doing a sadhana to take a rebirth out of the stomach. It's nothing more. Okay. He finished the first half of problem number 3. What's that mean? Huh? We gotta talk about the other line of garbage cans. Okay, we finished dullness. Now we're on to You can call it agitation, you can call it restlessness, mentalessness. Thinking about lunch as opposed to falling asleep. We had a big discussion, me and Lama in India one day. Can you have a prana vayu and a udana vayu at the same time? You know? The vayus of the body are collections of prana which perform functions. So when you have to digest food, you know, the samana vayu comes. All the prana collects near your stomach and it helps you grind up the food, right? A prana vayu helps you eliminate poop and menses and other things, you know, semen. And then udana vayu helps you speak or eject things through your mouth. Okay? So we were having this debate about could you have two vayus operating at the same time. And we went to a restaurant to talk about it in Varanasi. And we must have eaten something really bad. And we both, in a ditch across the street, had the experience that you can have both of those vayus going at the same time. Why did I mention that? Oh yeah. Could you have dullness and agitation at the same time? I mean, we could try. That would be like a goal. You know? Could you fall asleep and think of lunch at the same time? It's possible, I think. But we can work on it. I think this might not be plugged in. Yeah, aha. It keeps dying. Alright. So now we're on to restlessness. Thinking about lunch as opposed to falling asleep. Alright, now we're on to tonight's class. What time are we supposed to start? You're like one whole class behind us? Okay, that's alright. I just gotta make sure I know what to start. Yeah, we just finished this afternoon's class, alright? We won't finish this evening's class. So we'll be a little back behind in the homework. Now you can do the afternoon's homework. Okay, here we go on tonight's class, and we will stop on time. Sorry. Alright. But we'll have to be simple. Göpa ni, restlessness. Kuntule, the same book Samuccaya says, Göpa Karmically. What does it mean for the mind to be restless during meditation? Dupe Tsema Jesi Dupe Ducha Vicharto Pe Sem Nama Mashiva. It is an unsettledness of the mind. But it's specific, where the mind is attracted to something that is, the mind is distracted to something it finds attractive. Okay? The mind is distracted to something it finds attractive, like lunch, or the last boy you met, or the car that you want, or the promotion that you want, right? Those are all Göpa. There's a quality of the object. What is it? It's attractive. Right? So, restlessness, which is the opposite of dullness, is defined as the mind distracted to something it finds pleasant. And then the mind becomes unsettled. And it functions to disturb and block you from reaching shamatha. You cannot learn to reach a deep state of meditation if you have this state of mind. Did I give you a break tonight? Can we just go through? Alright. I'll probably go to non-break talk tonight. Okay. Explanation of Sheshin because Dupe Yura. It is the mind what do you call it? Wandering to things it finds attractive. Yura, Central Lachepa, you Dupe Sama Perna. He wants to give an example for an attractive object. He's going to give an example of the object that you might have trouble with if you get this happening to you. Farmer, Durkar, Farmer, Nimor, Tepana. In Tibet, they didn't have television. they had Göpa. Göpa and Ngar. I saw Göpa. I was in Dharamsala in 1973. So they were still knew how to do Göpa pretty well. And people dress up in these huge masks, and they wear these big costumes, and then they come out and they go, and everyone's like, oh, you know, and you can't understand a single word. I asked everybody, what's she singing? What's she saying? They said, nobody knows. And it's supposed to be the story of some old king or something. And it breaks you. It's like this Swan Lake done in an opera, and you have no idea. They're screaming in Italian, and you don't know what it's about. You know? Anyway, that was their entertainment. Let's say, he says, you go to a Göpa during the day. Then you get home, and in the evening, you're sitting having dinner, and suddenly the main actor or main actress comes to mind. You know, that handsome boy or that beautiful girl comes to your mind. That's a desirable mental image. Okay? He's giving an example. What's his name? Who's the hunk nowadays? Kind of naughty guy. It's not George, what's his name? It's Brad Pitt, yeah, okay? Brad Pitt popping into your mind is a desirable object. Okay, I mean if you're into that. Okay. Because you just went to see his movie or Angela Jolie pops up in your mind. You went to see Salt and you came home and then she popped up in your mind. That's what Göpa is. That's this restlessness of the mind. Jason Temple Shigo. This is interesting. He says we draw a distinction between distraction and restlessness. We draw a distinction between distraction and restlessness. And it's not evident in the words in English, and it's not evident in the words in Tibetan either. You have a person at work who is constantly picking on you, your supervisor, right? If they keep popping up in your mind during meditation, is that the restlessness that we have just defined? Why? Right, not an attractive object. You know, the opposite, right? So that doesn't classify as restlessness in the study of meditation. It is not the second line of garbage cans to be distracted by thoughts about your mean boss and how he was mean to you today or your ex-wife or whatever. Alright? It's not, it's bad, but it's not restlessness. Shine gom te tse jimba tsuchum so dewa yu la choa tawani choa yinya Göpa me no. Okay, here's another example. What if you're trying to develop single-pointed concentration towards the holy form of your heart teacher, and suddenly you start thinking about a project to raise money for the retreat cabin to Dharma no. Is that restlessness? Yes. They would say no. Okay? They would say it's a virtuous object, but it's not a desire object. Right? So there's some kind of negative connotation. Desire has sort of a negative connotation, like food or sex or TV or something like that. But to be distracted to a virtuous object is not classified as a desire object. So if you start thinking about fundraising projects when you're supposed to be concentrating on your Lama's holy form, is that shamatha? It's an obstacle to shamatha. Even a virtuous thought that doesn't apply to your chosen meditation object is a serious obstacle. And you have failed in your meditation. Even to have kind thoughts, charitable thoughts about something other than the form of your holy Lama, if you have chosen the holy form of your Lama as your meditation object, is to fail in your meditation. Meditation means You're focusing on the object that you chose. And other objects are all bad, even if they're virtuous, right? With that, so that doesn't qualify as restlessness either to think about fundraising projects. By the way, when you're in Tree Retreat, oh man, we'll have 10,000 projects within 6 weeks. Avoid it, okay? You can do them when you get out. You can think about it when you get out. Keep your mind on your object. Don't make grand plans about, I'm going to rebuild the World Trade Center and put a big Buddha face on the top. I swear, in the 3-year retreat, we get like thousands of little plans. You can write them down and burn them every single day. Okay. Hola. Cho good nika chineki pachi vinma. Göpa koda pachi jopa chi shina. So an interlocutor. Wow, that word just came up. Somebody comes and asks a question. Okay? Somebody comes up and asks Pabongka Rinpoche a question in the text. Right? He says, now listen, if I think of a fundraising project in the middle of trying to develop shamatha on my Holy Lama's beautiful, fantastic, incomparable form, why is that an obstacle to shamatha or not? What do you think? It is. Because you're not single-pointed. Okay? So why not classify it as restlessness? Isn't it being restless to think about a virtuous project when you're supposed to be thinking about something else? Isn't that restless? Yes or no? No. It is restless. I mean, your mind is restless. It's going off to something else. Okay? So this guy asks a perfectly reasonable question. He says, why do you reserve distraction towards desire objects as an obstacle to shamatha in problem number 3, but you don't list thinking of other stuff like your angry boss or your fundraising projects? Why don't you list those as problem number 3? Why do you only classify as problem number 3 distraction towards pleasure objects? Somebody asked the question. Because they are equally obstacles to your shamatha. He says, the fact is that being distracted to virtuous projects is less. And even being distracted to people you're angry at is infinitely fewer than distractions about what do you want to do and what do you want to get. Alright? What do you want to do and what do you want to get distractions are 99% of all distractions. In a normal person. Alright? Unless you just got divorced. Alright? 99% of your distractions are what do you want to do or what do you want to get. Okay? And even if you do have a thought about your boss, it normally won't last very long. And especially if you have a thought about fundraising for someone else's cabin, that's not going to last very long. But if you start thinking about all the stuff you want for you, now that you can sustain. Alright? Given that fact, we classify distraction to a desire object as being the obstacle to shamatha at this point, in problem number 3. Because they're so prevalent, and they're so sustained. It's not that the other ones are not obstacles. It's that this one is 99% of your problem. Okay? Thinking about lunch is more frequent than thinking about your boss. By far. And more sustained. Especially if you don't get lunch. Like, the RTV breaks down. Right, Rob? I mean, whatever. Things can happen. Okay. Namsha Yunla, Dishak and Yunla, Kotsewena. Yonchak Yunla, Dishak and Yunla, Kotsewena. Mawe Chok. Namsha Yunla, Dishak and Yunla. Generally speaking, when we try to meditate, the thing that disturbs our mind is normally stuff we want to get for ourselves. Also, it's a lot easier to get a thought about something you want than it is to think about someone you don't like. It's just easier. It's more, natural to the mind. Sumbayin. Bena, Shine Gomana, Yul Yudo Maola Toda. Therefore, in the practice of developing deep meditation, when your mind goes to an object which is unpleasant to you, we classify it as distraction. Right? When you are thinking about virtuous activities such as fundraising projects or doing prostrations like that, this is also a kind of distraction, but not restlessness. Shine gome kapsu sen nekala bhadu chepena veda gat grosso. But they also block your shamatha, and you have to try to fight them. I think the lesson we can learn from that last discussion is that, and this is very, very important, okay? Most of the people in this room, I believe, are very good people. I believe that most of the people in this room are really working hard to help other people. But to start thinking about that, when you're supposed to be developing single-pointed meditation on a particular object, is a bad deed. It's a mistake. Okay? So don't, especially in a 3-year retreat, don't fool yourself. Okay? Your job is the Vajradini sadhana, or whatever you choose. Your job is done. Okay? Don't start thinking about the World Trade Center and putting a Buddha face on the top of the World Trade Center when you're supposed to be getting Vajradini to come to your cabin. Alright? Because that becomes an obstacle. Then the World Trade Center becomes an obstacle. Goodness becomes an obstacle. Got it? Choose your meditation object carefully, and then stick to it, and eliminate all other thoughts. Right? Especially in a retreat. Because you're going to be thinking about 10,000 projects you can do when you get out. And you'll waste the whole time. Thinking about what, the biggest waste of time in a 3-year retreat is thinking about what you're going to do after the 3-year retreat. Which you can think about after the 3-year retreat. Alright? Alright. I'll keep you for about another 10 minutes. Right? Up to 7 minutes. What I'm trying to do is finish by tomorrow so people just come to the weekend and get the whole thing on meditation. Then we'll go to emptiness. Nikten yiki yone shorte rang re patu gomana jay shigne jendrovata nikten shorni Göpa. He begins to make a distinction between obvious restlessness and subtle restlessness in the same way that he made a distinction between dullness and subtle dullness, obvious dullness and subtle dullness. What was obvious dullness? About to fall asleep. What was subtle dullness? You have fixation. You have some clarity. You don't have the Ngar can refer to the temper on a knife. That's another good example. The word Ngar refers to the temper on a knife. I don't know how they temper steel. They raise the heat on it and then cool it suddenly or something? I don't know. You put a temper on a steel. Tempered blade will hold its sharpness much longer than a blade which hasn't been tempered. Ngar can also mean temper on a blade. Something that makes it more intense. Its cutting power becomes more intense. Its ability to hold sharpness becomes more intense. If you lose the object completely, right? For example, if you are trying to meditate on your Lama's divine, fantastic, beautiful, uncomparable eyes, and then suddenly, he calls it Jeshika. Jeshik means meltdown. You have a mental meltdown, alright? And Jendrovatak, you lose the object completely. Okay? That's gross restlessness. Okay? You melt down on the object and you go to something else. That's gross restlessness. Do you have fixation? Lost it. Not even fixation. Göpa Cat only chip Yutakar, Nikten Yiki Mashor War, Semi Searcha Shigne, Papa of Gyur, Sodu, you only number Charla, K, W, Göpa, someone, Göpa, someone. Okay, here's subtle, what? Restlessness, alright? Very subtle, very beautiful. He says, imagine a stream in the winter. A Fiji river next to Hasa in the winter, okay? The top freezes over, right? And then under the top, the water is flowing. You see? So picture that. A river, the top 4 inches is frozen, but there's still this torrent moving under the ice. Okay? He says, in subtle restlessness, you haven't lost the object. Right? You have not lost the object. But a certain corner of your mind is running below your consciousness, below your manifest thoughts. There's a subcurrent, what do you call it? Undercurrent of thinking about something you like. And it's a very beautiful word in Tibetan. Those of you who are studying Tibetan, say Charla K. Charla K. The important word here is K-H-A-D, K. K means just about to burst out. There's thoughts about lunch are running just under your conscious mind. And it will just take a little crack in the ice and you'll, hey, what's for lunch? You know, are they making a delivery this afternoon? Isn't it Monday? I thought 2 o'clock. Then the lunch thoughts running under the ice broke out. You see? So subtle restlessness is what? Those desire thoughts they're not stopped. They haven't come to the conscious mind yet. You haven't thought about lunch yet, but it's running under the mind, right under the consciousness of my new car, my new job, my new boyfriend. It's there. All those thoughts are running in the subconscious, right? That's subtle restlessness. And it will break out. It will crack, the ice will crack, and then it will move into gross restlessness, and you'll start thinking about your boyfriend. Then you've lost the object, and your restlessness has gone from subtle to obvious. Alright, good. Nice. Very interesting point here. I got 7 more minutes of your life. If you check the meditation chart, which you should do for fun, okay? Go home tonight, see how many of the things on there you know so far. Alright? Those of you who got the chart. In your free time. Go over the chart and see how much of it you know already. Because the other stuff you're going to get tomorrow, hopefully. The antidote for this problem of dullness and restlessness is called watchfulness. Watchfulness. In Tibetan they call it Sheshin. Say Sheshin. Sheshin. Sheshin means you reserve a corner of your mind to watch the rest of your mind while you're meditating. You set, in Tibetan it's called Sopa or Jara. Sopa Jara means a spy. Okay? It means a spy. You have an undercover guard in the corner of your mind. And you say, look, you don't participate in the meditation, okay? You watch the meditation. You say to a corner of your mind, hey you watch me meditate. If you see me start thinking about lunch, ring a bell. Ding, 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 ding. Alright, got it? That's Sheshin. The correction of problem number 3 is watchfulness. He's watching you meditate. The corner of your mind that's watching you meditate. And the minute you start getting sleepy, he goes, or the minute you start thinking about lunch, or about your fundraising projects in the middle of your 3 retreat, he's like, ding, 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 ding. Now, question for you. Does that fix the problem? No. Okay, so Pabongka Rinpoche says, Nyambamuni Sheshin Nin. Nyambamuni Sheshin Nin. Watchfulness is not the actual antidote to number 3, but traditionally it's called the antidote. All it does is what? It just alerts you to a problem. It doesn't fix the problem. It alerts you to a problem, but it doesn't fix the problem. But traditionally, it's considered the antidote, which must mean that the antidote comes next. Alright? But if you don't have an alarm go off, you will never apply the antidote, because you won't know you have a problem. Because if your mind is 100% in the meditation, and you don't have part of your mind watching your mind, you'll never catch yourself. You'll just keep doing that subtle dullness thing, that marijuana meditation thing. You've got to have part of your mind that can ring alarm. And that's called Sheshin. That's the antidote to problem number 3, traditionally. Obviously, we're going to have another antidote coming soon. Right? I still got 4 minutes, and I'm going to use it. Göpa, fair enough. However, the watchful state of mind, the watcher, what do you guys want to call it? Espionage? Monitor? Okay, you can call all that. Alright. He says, for example, Matla Sochekashin. It's as if you had set a lookout on a hill to watch the movement of the enemy troops. Got it? Okay. Chinga Jung Min Jung, Tope Chung Juche Geki Chupa Sheshin Tenka. In order to detect whether you have fallen into dullness or restlessness, you have to apply the 6th of the antidotes, which is just watchfulness. Watchful, mental lookout. How about lookout? Okay? A mental lookout in the back of your head. Sheshin finger. I still got 3 minutes. Deyang Sheshin Jin Niche Partena Nepa Nage. This is a very, very interesting and subtle point. Right? If you overdo the lookout thing, what will happen? It will break your fixation. Right? If you overdo the lookout thing, that will break your meditation. That will break your fixation point. You can be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed lookout, but that's going to ruin your fixation. Right? Don't overdo the lookout thing. Check in from time to time. Am I thinking about lunch yet? Alright. Yershin. Sheshin tenem matena. On the other hand, if you underdo the lookout thing, tingin zinlakin shu. Sinkan nishepa. You can have a problem developing in the meditation that you won't be aware of. A problem will come up. The meditation will start to go off. Meditation will start to degenerate. And you will know. If you underdo the lookout thing. If you overdo the lookout thing, you lose your fixation. If you underdo the lookout thing, you have a problem during the meditation and you don't even know you're having a problem. So you have to run a middle path. Shepa, Kume, nor care similar should be doing. It's like realizing that someone has broken into your truck and stolen your electric piano. Okay? Like, you gotta know that it's happening. You gotta know when it has happened. But then you can do something. Chakchenle, Jingwa Recollection, I still got 1 minute, so I'm gonna throw in this really difficult point. Recollection, Shepa, Sheshin, Gadik, Kakas, Jingwa, Only, Chuna, Chara, Chegute. The teachings on Mahamudra. What is Mahamudra in this sense? It's where the object of meditation is your own mind. How would lookout figure in that? Well, somehow it would be like having an automatic lookout. You see, if you were engaged in your mind as your object of meditation, it would be by nature already a lookout. Alright? So, when you're doing Mahamudra meditation, the lookout part is almost automatic. That's what he's trying to say. Jingwa Recollection, set a part of your mind to the job of watching the rest of your mind run. Sheshin Jadik, try to get your spy, your lookout should be positioned ahead of time. And from time to time, he should check in on your mind. Right? He's not doing it all the time because then you would lose your fixation. He's doing it. He hasn't gone to sleep completely and stopped looking out, or else you would just ruin your meditation. You would get into a problem and not know you were in a problem. Right? Okay. Okay, listen. Okay, that's a good place to start. One more line, okay? Jingwa. What's Jingwa? Bodhisattva, written by Master Shantideva. When Master Shantideva says, Nudan sending makeup love, Yang and Yang Tak Jawa. During meditation, check in fairly frequently on the condition of your body and your mind. Are you sitting up straight still? Are you still not moving? Okay? Are you still holding the physical posture of meditation well? And how's your mind doing? Is your mind wandering yet? Has your mind gotten dull yet? Okay? This is what it means to put a lookout. This is what it means to put a lookout. Someone who checks from time to time on the condition of your mind and body during meditation. Right? Sheshin, thus it was spoken. Alright. We didn't finish tonight's class, so do as much homework as you can. I didn't want to get behind, but I also don't want to burn you out. Today was a long day. Right? So, I will pause there.